Welcome to the Adventure Mechanics. I'm Chandler,
I'm Devin.
And I'm Tom.
and today we'll be talking about The Dig.
Dig it!
Oh yeah! So, The Dig is a point-and-click adventure game that came out in, 1995?
1995.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is...
LucasArts.
Yep. And it went through 6 different creative leads, which is insane, as a side note. Like, I'm surprised that it came out at all with that many creative directors, because this game was probably Duke Nukem Forever before Duke Nukem Forever in the, hey, this game will never come out vaporware kind of thing. But it did finally come out in 1995 after being started in 1989. So
short development.
yeah, a short 6-year development cycle for a point-and-click adventure game.
In 1995, which that's kind of something I think we've all gotten used to at this point, is long development, but for younger listeners that don't know that is really weird for a game that old.
Yeah, like
It's exceptional.
that is an insane amount of development time.
You cannot overemphasize that.
Yeah, most AAA games are made in 2 to 3 years. And this is with the aid of engines like Unity or Godot or Godot, however you want to pronounce that, and built-in in-game engines that the larger firms already have. And this game was 6 years in the making during the time of, let's put it bluntly here, the NES. When, you could knock a game out in like 9 months and have it be very well received. So the development cycle on this was insanely long.
And badly managed. But we'll get into that with the history.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of already getting into it, but why don't we just start off with like the story of the game, since
Sure.
we kind of started off awkwardly anyway.
Well, I mean, on your list though, you have history, so I think we just keep going with your history.
Yeah, why don't we just take it from the top?
I think we need to do the history of the game, just kind of brief overview, and then go
Okay.
into the story, because I think we're going to be jumping a little much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and
that's
also, just to be fair, I kind of feel like, at least for me, I think the history of this game is actually in some ways much more interesting than the game. So for people that are listening right now and are like, oh my god, I don't want to hear the history. No, this is the really interesting part. Like, there's so much to go over. This thing is nuts.
Okay, so this is a game conceived of by Steven Spielberg. Yes,
That's Steven Spielberg.
Yep.
he wanted to make it as part of an episode for the show called Amazing Stories, but the budget wouldn't allow
So
for
not
it.
a game.
Yeah. He's like, okay, I want to make this plot. Let's put it in a TV show. I don't have the budget. Let's make it a movie. Don't have the budget. Shit. So he talks to fucking George Lucas. Yeah, that fucking George Lucas. And,
Right.
And George is like, well, I got this game company over here. We could make it in a video game. And so he's like, fucking deal, right? And they start making this game. And because it's so big, they actually got Orson Scott Card to write the dialogue for it. Yes,
Yes, that Orson Scott Card.
right? So this game has a lot of fucking hands in the pie already, and we haven't even gotten to the development cycle.
And like, when you hear about that and you're like, Orson Scott Card, George Lucas, and Steven Spielberg, all of them collaborated to make a game. You go, oh my god, that has to be the greatest thing ever. But
yeah, we'll get to that on the impressions.
yeah, it's
For those in the know that are maybe thinking, why does this seem kind of familiar, but in a like a different universe? Like, think of PT with Hideo Kojima teaming up with Guillermo del Toro, which ended up never happening.
Yeah, exactly.
But that kind of hype and excitement, like, oh, these guys, they're gonna do a game. What?
This is
well, yeah,
because
because that's the other thing too that's important to note, is that it was known that these three were collaborating. People knew this was happening. So there was so much hype.
And this was going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread.
To be fair, if somebody told me right now that those three were collaborating, I'd be like, oh, shit. Here we go. But
Yeah, I'm going to need a folding chair for this because it's going to get good.
yeah.
Once they start the development cycle, they go through the iterations of this game and they just can't find the nugget that makes it fun. And they just keep going through creative directors like they're going out of style. So they finally get one creative director to go through the vast majority of the game. And then he leaves to do something else. Let's see here. I believe he goes on to make another game that's quite popular, and I will edit that in. Editor Chandler here. The designer I was thinking about was Dave Grossman, who went on to create the Secret of Monkey Island series. But, yeah, after he departs to his next big thing, they bring in one last guy who basically says, okay, I'm going to make something out of this. And he does. He gets this game finally out in December of 1995. Like, right in the height of Christmas season. And at the time, it was kind of a meh game, which is kind of a huge letdown. Like, Duke Nukem Forever letdown of the time.
Yep.
People thought the graphics were dated. It was a fun idea, but poor execution. Or dated execution, I should say.
Which makes sense, because 6 years had gone by.
Yeah.
Didn't it go through, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was 3 engines?
Yeah.
Like, one of which was a complete and utter, from the ground up, they designed an entire game engine
And then just threw it
and
away.
then scrapped it. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like, what? That's crazy. Most games, if you get to the point where you design an entire game engine, and by the way, the game was kind of functional at that point. They had storylines, the game was playable. It wasn't finished, but they had a playable game, and they scrapped it and started over.
Yeah.
The fact that this game made it all the way to completion is, like, I would say a miracle, except that it wasn't a miracle. It was just an insane amount of hype and
Very
just people
deep
throwing
pockets.
ridiculous money at it.
Yeah. They were burning money
Endless
like it was
streams
going out
of
of
money.
style. But one of the big complaints, which I don't think is valid anymore, but I'll go into that a little bit later, was the marriage of like the painterly style and early 90s 3D graphics.
Oh yeah, I agree. I'm like, what? That's what you're going to complain about? Okay.
I thought the art style was pretty good. I don't really have a problem with that.
We're in the world of pixel graphic games coming out on a daily basis. Yours truly even working on one. But it's still at the time, graphics are the thing you have to, the be all end all. Like we hadn't gotten over that yet. I can get it at the time, but
Have we really gotten over it now? I mean,
okay, granted. I stopped paying attention to the AAA scene a long time ago, so I should probably give that a huge caveat there. I don't really care about graphics if the mechanics are engaging enough.
fully agree.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it got received, and since then, it's like they didn't really even talk about the puzzles because, well, let's be honest, this was Sierra Logic, so who cares?
Also, the puzzles are bad.
It's par for the course. It's par for the course. We don't care about that.
Yeah.
That's kind of just sat there, and it's kind of become a cult classic, I would say, because of all of the production value that went into this game. So despite it not going over so well at the beginning or when it was released, it became a cult game effectively. Is that a fair bit of analysis there?
Yeah. I'd say it's probably kind of a cult classic. It's a lot of people. I mean, when you get talking about the Dig, a lot of people come out and say like, "Oh, this is my favorite LucasArts game." So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to be fair, I kind of understand it. I mean, I'll be honest. I didn't end up beating the game. I got a fair ways into it, and in today's world, obviously, there's a lot to be desired, but when put in context, it's pretty cool. The story is really compelling. The world that it builds is pretty interesting. So I kind of understand that. And, you're totally right about the polish. The polish of the game is outstanding, which to me was actually one of the things that impressed me the most. Because when you hear a history about a game that like goes through so many different leads and apparently like multiple engines and the story changed like 3 or 4 times, and you just think, oh dear God, this is going to be a dumpster fire. But it actually comes together pretty cohesively. I think one of the more impressive things about the game is that it was such a dumpster fire in production and somehow came out as well as it did. Because it's not bad.
I got to give credit to Moriarty, the last guy, who kind of just scrabbled something together and really gave us what we have today. So
yeah, that's not an accomplishment to be overlooked. Like, clearly, a bunch of other people couldn't pull it off. So
yeah, mad props to that. Spoiler alerts. Devin brought this to our attention to talk about. So why don't you go into the story a little bit, since we talked about the history of how the game was made.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, obligatory spoiler warning here. If you don't want spoilers for the game, and if the initial premise that I give you here sounds interesting, go play the game yourself and then come back, because I will basically be spoiling to the end of the game. So
oh yeah.
So basically, this is the first like 5-10 minutes of the game, and asteroid is on a collision course with Earth. And
Armageddon.
Yeah, right.
Armageddon. It
oh
starts
my
out
God,
very
that's
light.
all I was thinking about when I was watching the intro. It was like Armageddon. Oh my God, they replaced it with the oil miners with a journalist. What?
Yeah, weird choice. But before we even get into that, I was actually going to ask. I never looked into this, and now I'm feeling like I should have. Did Armageddon come out before or after the game?
After.
After.
It was after. So, okay, well, wonder where they got their idea.
They threw in this geologist and this, Armageddon was 1998. They threw in this geologist and this journalist. Why don't we just make it a whole bunch of oil drillers? Perfect.
I mean,
Movie of the year.
Both of them are stupid, but the oil rig thing makes more sense. So
yeah, sorry to interrupt, Evan.
Right. So this asteroid's on a collision course for Earth. It's basically, it's gonna hit Earth. So I guess NASA scrambles up a retired astronaut and a bunch of really stupidly highly qualified people to go into space on the space shuttle and plant a couple of nukes on the asteroid to get it away from Earth, which is where it sounds a lot like Armageddon, right?
Yeah.
One of the characters is a journalist, but she's also apparently good at setting nuclear charges, which everybody seems to forget. Even the other characters who continually comment on her career, and yeah, she's constantly having to legitimize her, defend her place on the team.
Oh,
so anyway,
yeah,
so they send everyone up.
Okay, sorry, I have to interject with this. What did her schooling look like?
Yeah, all of these people have really weird, because Brink's a geologist, but he's also an archaeologist. Those two things are very different fields.
Yeah.
You might study one when you go into the other, but that's not how.
Yeah,
they're not interchangeable.
I'm a surgeon and a cryptozoologist. What?
Yeah. Well,
why?
And the other part that drove me crazy about this particular part of this whole thing was that they constantly berate her about whether or not she knows how to do her job. And I'm like,
yeah.
No, she's
I know how
super
astronauts
qualified.
work. Oh,
yeah,
she's
we
the
will
most
get to that
qualified
in the
person.
impressions part after
yeah.
I'm done with the story.
Sorry. We keep
just
interrupting.
They
we got
train
thoughts.
together.
so anyway, so they send everybody up, and we've kind of been hinting at this. So your three main characters are Boston Lowe, retired astronaut, military man, and he's actually the player character. You guide him around the game. There's also I forget his first name, Brink. They just call him Brink, so whatever. Dr. Brink, and he's a geologist, but also apparently an archaeologist, and probably a bunch of other things.
Yeah, Dr. Ludger Brink.
Ludger Brink, that's right. Very German name. And then there's Maggie Robbins, who is, as we said, a journalist. She's also apparently skilled in setting nuclear charges, and she's also a fucking linguist.
Yeah,
like
more
an
on that
impossibly good linguist too.
Yeah,
she only spent the
Again,
first 45
later.
years of her life in college.
Yeah, it's like these people are like super like, anyway, it doesn't matter. So they send these people up, set the charges on the asteroid, blow it open, and then go inside and find that there's a hollow chamber inside. It's alien technology. They turn it on, and they're zapped away whoosh, faster than light to an alien planet. And at this point, everybody, if that sounds like it might be an interesting concept for you to play, go play the game, then come back.
Yeah, you could say hi to
there
the
be
other two
spoilers.
people on the space shuttle that you never hear from again.
Oh yeah, and they're
Yeah.
also ridiculously, stupidly qualified. Like one of them's like in a current like race, in an election race to become a senator. Like
Yeah. Yeah, a senator for re-election is going into space like, I'm just going to do this.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
the opening cinematic like names everyone and what their like what their jobs are and like their qualifications and like their current careers, and it's just like the weirdest rogues gallery of really overqualified people. Like, how do
It
people
is.
get this qualified?
It's so funny, too, because, like, it has the first three people, and it goes like, and here's your 2 minutes, and here's your 2 minutes, and here's your 2 minutes, and then the last two are like, oh yeah, and those two people on the end of the table. Hi!
Yeah, no, that's no joke too. Oh my god, they're basically forgotten about from the get-go. I forgot they were on the shuttle while I was like
Yeah.
interacting with. I would like be like, what do I do here? I'm like, oh yeah, I can talk to those guys. Maybe they have something to say.
Yeah.
So they end up on this alien planet. They know absolutely nothing about it. They apparently it has an atmosphere, so they could take off their spacesuits and breathe. And it's apparently abandoned. There's nothing alive except critters on this planet. And so the three of them are trying to figure out, well, what is this place and how do we get away from here? And in the course of their exploration, Brink is killed. Maggie decides that she wants to split the party because that's the best thing to do. Off she goes, and
Yeah, kind of suddenly.
Yeah. Brink's dead. Okay, bye!
Brink's dead. I'm leaving. Bye. Though, I mean, to be fair, if people were going to continue to like berate, my career and keep asking me, well, what are you going to write about this when you get home? Like, I'd probably want to leave too. I'd be like, you know what? I play D&D, but screw the rule of not splitting the party because I've had enough of this shit. Anyway. So, poor Boston Lowe is left by himself. All he wanted to do was keep people safe, and he couldn't do that because Brink died, and then Maggie's off probably gonna die too, on this alien planet, which, by the way, is completely alien. They don't know what anything is, and there is what they call an apparition that appears and seems to be trying to guide them places, and it continues to appear for Lowe as the story progresses. So Lowe explores, he finds things, he pushes buttons, he has to figure stuff out because there are no instructions and everything's completely alien. So as far as the puzzles are concerned, you can see why this might be a problem. But more on that later. As Boston Lowe is exploring, he discovers some alien stuff that looks like a crystal that he divines from a museum, quote unquote, display that it will bring dead things to life. So he goes and tries that on Brink, and lo and behold, he comes back to life. But Brink's not entirely
He comes
himself.
back
He's
wrong.
different somehow. He comes
Kind of
back
comes back
wrong.
a druggie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he comes back like the metaphor is pretty tortured. Brink comes back, he's not entirely
I want to hear about that when you get there.
Sure.
I want to hear about your opinions on that when you get there.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts.
Yeah.
So Brink comes back to life, and he ends up going off on his own as well. And as Boston finds out later, Brink is obsessed with the life crystals. He's so obsessed with it that he's willing to kill for it, or at least beat people up to take them. So, again, Lowe's exploring things. Yep. He finds stuff. He finds Maggie. Maggie has been in the quote-unquote library, and she has found writing, the alien writing, and she is working on deciphering it because she knows that the aliens made these things so that outsiders could decipher their language and learn it. More on that later.
On top of being a nuclear
Somehow.
physicist, linguist, and journalist, I also studied, alien languages. Just a little bit.
And can decipher it in
and
like
that,
a matter of a few
I
seconds.
have
Yeah.
thoughts
Because,
on
by
that.
the way, one
later.
one thing that is important to note about all of this stuff is that at no point during this entire thing do any of these people get food.
Yeah.
So a very small quantity of time has clearly passed.
They do talk a lot about the fear of starving, that they're not sure what they're going to be able to eat, and they need to find perhaps some indication of what is edible on this planet. But yeah, it's pretty clear that in the time frame of this story, it's not very long. It's maybe only a few hours. So they're in no danger ultimately, except for the other dangers, like getting killed by falling rocks or things that come back to life or big spider things. Anyway,
We'll talk about that.
so Maggie's busy working on this language thing. Boston Lowe is working on exploring and connecting all the islands together and solving puzzles. Brink is obsessed with life crystals. Maggie gets abducted by a spider creature that then Lowe has to go get Brink to try and save her. They do manage to do that. Brink beats Lowe up, takes his life crystals, and runs off.
I'm taking your lunch money.
So as they've been going on at this point, Lowe has discovered that there is a dead alien, like the body of a dead alien that he can resurrect with the life crystals. But he can't speak the alien's language, so he, after rescuing Maggie, takes her to go see the dead alien, resurrects the dead alien, wakes him up, and we find out that this alien is the inventor. That this alien invented all of the amazing technology, the light bridges, the life crystals, and then the eye. Which, as you talk to, as Lowe is talking to the inventor, he learns that, well, Lowe isn't actually talking to him, it's actually Maggie, because she's the only one who speaks the language. Huzzah! But it's implied that she's translating it for Lowe, which is why you, the player, can understand what's going on. So the inventor tells about this really miraculous thing that they discovered, that his people discovered, that he made it. He made the doorway into space-time 6, which is to say, another dimension where there's 3 dimensions of space, 3 dimensions of time. And you're immortal energy beings, and you can see all, know all, and it's great. And in fact, it's so great that you don't want to leave. So on top of that, and the life crystals making people into weird, murderous zombies because they're so obsessed with keeping alive, then you have other aliens getting into the eye and going into space-time 6 and not being able to come back. And the inventor is very, very, very clear on the fact that he wishes he never did any of this. He wishes that they never sent out the ships to other planets to try and bring people here to share their knowledge. That it was an invitation they wish they'd never had sent. And that he is there in this strange mausoleum of a kind. Because he's there to warn people not to use the crystals, not to go into the eye, and just resign yourself to being dead on the planet because everything's terrible. And then the more he's brought back to life, the closer he gets to death, and that's all he wants is to actually die.
Yeah, I think he had an
Cheerful.
ulterior motive there. Come,
So-
join me in the dead pile.
So after learning about this, they do finally get out of the inventor that there is a piece that they need to turn on the eye, and as much as it's a bad idea, he does tell them how to find where the eyepiece is. They find the eyepiece, they put it in the machine, but it needs 2 life crystals to run. Of course it does. So they have to go find Brink. Brink, in the
'Cause he has all
meanwhile,
of them.
is calling for help because his hand is caught in a wall. And they have to chop off his hand in order to get him free. But he's still not going to share his stashed life crystals because he's building a machine. He's repairing the machine to make life crystals.
And it's my lunch money anyway.
And it's my lunch money anyway. So Lo makes a deal with Brink that for 50% of the life crystals, that he will give him the eyepiece to turn on the machine to get life crystals. And Brink says yes. Turn on the machine, only 2 life crystals appear. Of course, neither of them were willing to go through with the deal, and there's a fight, and Brink falls off the cliff and dies.
Oh no.
Yeah. So Lo takes the life crystals they need and the eyepiece, go back to the machine with Maggie, and she's the one that can read the fucking alien language. So she's the one turning on the machine.
She's completely deciphered it in 2 hours.
Yep.
Yes, she's completely competent in 2 hours with this. She's completely fluent. There's no problems. She could speak it as well as read it. Isn't that weird?
It's insane.
Amazing.
Later.
Yeah.
Fine.
So Maggie starts turning on the machine while Lo is watching. And one of the little thingies won't open. So she climbs up to open it. I should say that before she does this, before they're turning on the machine, Maggie makes Lo promise that he won't resurrect her if anything happens. And he promises and then asks her to do the same for him. This is important because if you already guessed, oh, I bet she dies, she goes up there,
Ding, ding, ding.
opens the top hatch thing to make the light squirt up into the sky, I don't know, and she falls to her death. And Lo is very, very sad. And now he's alone. And so he goes up to go into Space-Time 6, but aha, the inventor has a last trick up his sleeve, which is an alien dog creature suddenly appears on the light bridge, which Lo gets rid of easily because he just turns off the light bridge so that it plummets to its death, turns the light bridge back
Good trap.
on.
Best trap.
Yeah, best trap ever. Right. And then, well, I should say that Lo thinks that it's the inventor's trick, but, you know, who knows?
You've been over that
Somebody's
light
trick.
bridge a billion times.
Billion times. There was no... Anyway, so Lo gets rid of the alien dog. His path is clear. He's very sad. He's all alone. He goes into the eye into Space-Time 6, and it's so amazing. But then he's like, no, I have to go back to reality. I have to have my feet on the ground because I'm a practical man. And he leaves Space-Time 6 and is able to bring all of the aliens back.
Except for the
aliens that
inventor.
Except for the inventor who never went into Space-Time 6, which is why. But all of the other aliens in Space-Time 6 who had no bodies, because the inventor says that they gave up their bodies to be energy beings in Space-Time 6, but they all come back
And you
with
encounter
bodies.
some. Because you encounter the bones in the very beginning.
Oh, yeah.
And they're supposed to be aliens. So we know they're dead.
Oh, yeah. Well, and again, the inventor says that their bodies are dead and their consciousnesses are stuck in Space-Time 6. But lo and behold, can bring them out of Space-Time 6, and then they're all there, and in fact, they can go bring back Maggie and Brink.
Who
And then
never
they build a space...
went to Space-Time 6.
Who were never in, but, like, it's somehow, like, what? Anyway, and so then they build a ship and send them all back to Earth. Hurrah. The aliens learned their lesson about things.
And they strongly imply that suddenly this is going to be a huge economic boom for both species.
Yeah.
And what if humans get too aggressive? Well, we'll deal with them. I shit you not. That's an entire line out of this
Yep.
game.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so that is basically the story.
What if the aliens get too aggressive?
Well,
Well,
humans are fucked.
that's
a
They're
given.
just fucked, man. They're just fucked,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
So yes. So, the apparitions mentioned earlier, those were the beings trapped in Space-Time 6 trying to interact with the world to get people to help them.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's kind of important.
I have some thoughts on this, but I want to hear Devin's thoughts
Yeah.
first. unless you need a breather.
Yes.
No, I'm good. I can go because, like Chandler said earlier, this is a game I recommended and that I said we should play. It sounds like I really hate this game, but I probably like it a lot better than both Chandler and Tom, based on what they've said before we started recording and then after we started recording.
That's probably fair.
It is not without its flaws. It absolutely has its flaws, gameplay-wise and story-wise. But I do quite like this game, and I'll start with the things that I really like about it. I think that this story concept is amazing, and I give the whole development team absolute props for trying to make this concept work as a video game, because I don't know that it's possible.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
the concept being that a human person has been transported to a completely alien world where there are completely alien contraptions. And in fact, it's been abandoned, like, you know, it's a dead world, like nobody's been there for so long, and it's a completely alien language. Like, there's no way that you would be able to just figure that stuff out. But if you're playing a game, you absolutely need to be able to figure the stuff out. Like, that's the point of a game.
Yeah.
Right.
So I completely want to give them credit where credit is due, that this is an awesome idea, and I think they did the best that they could with it. It's just, like, not something that I think could be done in video game form and be fun.
Yeah.
Especially with trying in the story to convey the sense of urgency, which this game does not have. That's a criticism, but I'm going to talk about what I like. This concept, really great. When you talk to the inventor, amazing. Some of that dialogue is great. Like, it's really an interesting take on this, you know, this alien being with alien thoughts. And of course, you know, it's communicated in a way that, you know, humans can understand, because obviously humans are playing the game. But it was a neat idea. The music in this game is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's one guy with a synthesizer. Well, it's not exactly one guy, but anyway, but Michael Land did an amazing job. This music is so beautiful, and it just really just lifts the game up from where it could have been, and if it had a worse soundtrack. Like, it just really gives you, like, when you're walking onto these screens that are beautifully illustrated, like these backgrounds that are just gorgeous, and you just get the sense of wonder and awe from it. And you see these things that you don't understand, like these contraptions that don't make a lot of sense, and everything is like recurring geometric shapes and stuff, and it's really, really cool. So I just absolutely love that. But
and now the criticisms.
but I have some questions. The main one obviously is, you know, I don't think the execution of trying to convey a story that has urgency, and exploring this world and trying to figure it out when it's completely a priori, I don't think that worked very well. Because on the one hand, you get some really obtuse puzzles that what am I doing? Which makes sense, because if you were in that situation in reality, you would be sitting there going, I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at. I don't know what to do. I'm just pushing buttons. What if something explodes? But I'm never going to be able to read this. You know, you would be there. But for a game, that's not fun. So you just sit there going, what? Where's the walkthrough? Like, help. The Dirtle Turtle puzzle, like, there is like a fossil of the dead turtle that you can look at to, like,
but you can't
find a
get
hint,
a really good
but you
image
can't
of
actually
it.
see anything. Like, it's, you know, it doesn't actually help you at all.
It's like a dark
again,
brown gray on a dark gray outline. It's
Yeah.
like, how the fuck am I supposed to figure out how this turtle went together when you won't let
it's
me
like
look
you
at
can see,
it?
like, you can see the two ends, and that's about it. And then you're just like, okay, so it's got legs, I guess.
I think the turtle had a head.
So there's that. Like, you know, these, like, mechanic stuff, criticism, which is, ugh. Also, it breaks the 180 rule all the time, which is really minor, but it drives me a little bit crazy. And if you don't know what the 180 rule is, I believe that's something you use mostly in film, where if you have a character moving from the left to the right, and they move off screen, they should be coming on screen in the next scene from the left.
Yeah, that's a good rule.
So
Yeah.
that usually when you have visual media like that, you don't break that because your brain will get thrown out of what's going on and be confused. And this game consistently breaks that rule where you'll have, leave, like Boston will leave on the right side of the screen, but he'll suddenly be coming in like on the right side of the screen.
Because
It's like,
logic be
wait.
damned.
Yeah, and like, or sometimes like the camera angles are slightly different, and you're like, what exactly am I looking at? Am I still on the same path? What is happening? But again, like the illustrations are absolutely beautiful, but it's a little weird, and it kind of takes you out of it when you're like, why am I suddenly looking at, like, why am I all the way the hell over there when I was over here before? Huh?
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of confusion.
There's a
around
lot
that,
of
I would
that,
agree.
which a bold decision, but maybe not the right decision. Characters. The characters are very one note and not very likable.
Not a
Yes.
single one.
Not a single
Ah.
one. And I mean, there's some really great ideas in there. Like, I think having the idea of, like, I mean, it's a little fraught because Maggie is not only the maligned journalist, but she's also a woman in this kind of boys club with, Brink and Lowe. And like, I think that you could get an interesting story out of that with her, having to defend her position. And granted, like, they have that set up in the game as she's defending her career, but I mean, it's still kind of that, narrative about sexism,
Oh
you
my
know.
God. Yeah, the
So like,
sexism
even though
in
she's
this is just-
super,
ugh.
yeah,
It's
so
so
she's
thick. It's so
superly
thick.
overqualified for what she does professionally. She's a journalist that can set nuclear charges and learn alien languages in 2 hours. I'm going to talk about the linguist thing in a minute. Like, don't worry.
Yeah, it's
I'll get
coming up.
there. But it's coming. But she could do all this, and then she's on this team, this NASA put together team, and then she's still, oh, what are you going to write in the story? I just
Yeah.
want to make sure you're happy, Robbins. It's just really condescending all the time, and sometimes
Yep.
like, and it kind of sucks because it's like you want to be on her side, but she like is so one note. Like
She's
her
bitchy.
her personality is I'm a bitch.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it's like there's
Like-
nothing else there, so it's like really hard to even be on her side because even though Lowe is being super patronizing about everything, it's like she then patronizes him right back later, and it's like I don't think eye for an eye works. Like this doesn't make for compelling character. Anyway, the whole thing with the characters is they're like one note, like there's like one word that can describe them, aside from their like professions, and that's it. Like that's all the characters. In a way, you can even argue that the alien inventor is that way, but I feel like you can excuse that because A, it's an alien, B, he's been resurrected like 50 million times, and I don't know about you, but I think if people had been resurrecting me to bother me, and I'm continually trying to warn them, don't eat the crystals, don't sniff the crystals, don't ingest the crystals,
Don't
go
shoot
near
him
the
into
eye.
your veins. I mean, come on, guys.
Why did you come here? I mean, I would be really cranky and not very helpful either.
Yeah.
Especially since they've established in the lore that the more you get resurrected, the more not yourself you are. So we can assume that the inventor is probably not entirely himself at this point, if he has been resurrected as many times as he says.
Even then, he still has more personality than all three of them combined.
Oh yeah, he actually has a very
That's the sad
unique
part.
way of speaking. Yeah, he has a very unique way of speaking. Like all of his dialogue is like really, like just really ornate, archaic sounding, like very like almost like poetry, like leaning in that direction. Kind of talking, and it's like, wow, this is really great because at least it's not. Are you happy, Robbins?
Yeah.
Are you happy? I just want to make sure you're happy. I think we should stick together. Actually, no, I think that we should split up. I think it's not any safer to be together.
I think I should
it
crack
is.
this random rock over this dude's body.
Yeah, that was so weird.
There's also that where, okay, so here's my segue into linguistics. So we've established, of course, that this is an alien world. We don't know how anything works. There is the quote-unquote museum, and I'm saying quote-unquote on these things because the characters just say, this is a museum, this is a library, this must be the aliens' blah. Like some things like the tram system, that makes sense. This obviously is
Right.
like a tram. So it makes sense that a human would say, okay, this blue ball rolls from one island to the next, it's a tram. Cool.
Yep.
You can travel from one to the other. Cool. Got it.
I'm on board
Speaking
with that.
speaking of, I thought it was really great in the inventor's dialogue. If you ask about the light bridges, that they're like, the light bridges is so useful. We didn't actually know it would be as useful as it was, and if we'd known that, we wouldn't have built the trams.
That was great. I love that.
Which was like a cool way to say like, hey, it's game design, which is why you have to have the trams. But here's a cute in-game reason for why there are trams. I liked that.
And it added
Anyway,
to the
so
personality of the inventor. Like, just
Yes.
straight up. He was the best person to talk to.
He was the best person to talk to, and I enjoyed talking to him, and I'm sad there wasn't more dialogue.
I know this is going to sound sexist, but if this was an anime, the inventor is best girl.
Inventor is best girl.
Yeah. I can't help it. It's too funny.
Yeah, so these human characters go around just saying, this must be this is this, like, this is the aliens, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, there's no way for you to know that. Like, you just walked into this room, and there's a bunch of glowy thingies with a console. Like, okay, I can see where you could think these were, like, computers, but a library? How do you know that?
This could have
You
just...
can't
This is
know
the
that.
server
This could have
room.
just
So-
been a fucking cafeteria.
Right, and the museum, which has these these wall displays that like shift and morph and try to give you information. And of course the game developers are trying to say, how do we say in a pictorial way to the player, this thing that you have found, this is what you use it for, right?
But they're so bad.
But they're so weird, and I mean,
Yeah.
and then Boston watches it and goes, oh yeah, that's a bomb. And I think that one's the most clear one, because then you look at the Life Crystal one, it's like, okay, there's a skeleton, there's an egg thing, there's a skeleton, there's goo coming out of the egg thing, question mark, as the skeleton is exploding, the skeleton is exploding, the skeleton is no longer a skeleton.
Yeah. Oh my god. I've got to say, just if I can interject, that those like hieroglyphic things
Yeah.
like baffled me. I was watching it and I was like, I have absolutely no idea what I just watched, because they're really kind of grainy and they're kind of weird and like kind of basic and pictorial, and everything is alien, so like there's nothing really identifiable.
Yeah.
And then, like, at the end, the guy is just like, oh, this was this. And I was like, what?
I know.
What did... And I, like, had to go back and watch it again and be like, I don't understand what he's getting.
And I'm so glad you said that, Tom, because I was just about to say, like, if you already know the story, which I have already played the game a couple times before we played it now, so I know what it is, but I'm still struck by the fact of how do you know what that is? So you not knowing, going in, and then looking at it going, what? Like,
Yeah.
it's so weird.
If they did it like a comic book, where it was like panel, 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 so you could actually sit there and study them and compare them against each other, it would probably
Right.
make more sense.
Yeah.
But because it's just this one picture at a time, morphing into the next one, you don't have enough time to stare at it to be like, what the hell am I even looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And so the whole time you're just like, random pictures, cool.
yeah, and the bomb one I think is the
moving
most
on.
clear, because it's like, device. The alien's carrying the device. There's a mountain. The alien put the device in the mountain, and the mountain has a hole in it.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
that
like,
one made
oh,
sense.
Okay, it's a bomb. So
It's a
when
bomb.
Lo's like, okay, I need to find one of those
Yes.
explosive devices, you're like, yeah, okay, I get that.
Oh.
And I mean, and I understand.
And also at the end he says explosive device, and you go, yeah, okay.
yeah, and you're like, all right.
Like, cool.
Yeah, and like, I totally understand that also part of this is the game developers needing to communicate to the players that may not have understood the pictograms that
Yes.
this was an explosive device. These crystals bring things back to life. Like, I get that, but it's really jarring narratively, because it's like, how do you know?
Right.
Which?
Yeah, that.
Lo is
Go ahead,
just
sir.
an idiot savant in this because of that.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
He's like a moron through the entire game, but then you like watch these things, and you're as a player going, "Wow, I have no idea what I just looked at," and Lo just like, "Oh, that was this," and you're like, "Huh?
You're like, okay.
Huh?
How do you
This
get
must
there?
be the
Lo?
Alien Museum. And, okay, I guess.
Wait! We need to backtrack."
Also, side note, when you find the life crystals and the apparitions try to warn you away from them, they make a human skull in the air.
Yes, that bothered
Now-
me. I was like,
I get
"Are they
that.
X-raying us?"
I get that Space-Time 6 allows them to see beyond space and time, like, so that they have access to stuff that they normally wouldn't, but I still feel like that was stretching it. But again,
Yeah.
this is to communicate to the human player.
They could have signposted that a lot better.
Yeah,
They really
I
could
think,
have.
yeah, and again,
Yep.
it's like shorthand to
Yep.
communicate to the player, but yeah.
But there's other ways to do
Yeah.
that would have been way less clunky.
They could have just put one of the alien corpses, like just the bones of an alien corpse, because they do show those at some capacity.
Yep.
And just have one of the characters remark on it, like, "Hey, look, isn't that a strange looking skull?" And then that would be a cue to be like, "Oh, I should pay attention to the skull." And then they do the skull
Yeah.
thing, and that would have been a lot more elegant.
And then it's like if you're paying attention, you would say, "Oh gosh, that's the same skull from before, so it's a skull."
They could have even just like put in the fucking incredible linguist genius woman and had a sign that says "do not use" or something, and have her translate it. There's so many like simple ways
Yeah.
to get that across.
Yeah.
They could have even had like a character remark as they broke down the door, like break down the door to get in, and then had a character remark, "Huh, someone went to a lot of trouble to block
this off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
It's
that would have
it's
been
so
so
simple.
easy.
Yeah, which I have now come to the linguistics thing. So
Yes. This is what I'm looking
these
forward to.
guys,
me too.
these guys know that I studied linguistics and philology in college. This is like my hobby.
This is her jam.
It was
Yes.
what I was trained to do, also literature, and then it's my hobby. So I was like, cool, when I first played this and, first seen anything about it. Cool, Maggie's like a linguist too. That's neat. So she does languages and she's a journalist. This makes sense. Though there's a very big difference between a polyglot and a linguist. Polyglot speaks a lot of languages. Linguist actually like goes into the nitty-gritty, knows how languages works, and you can start to learn other languages if you're a linguist by breaking things down and whatever. So here's the thing with this game is this is an a priori alien language. It is not related to any Earth languages at all. It has a completely different writing system.
Yeah.
And you come in and you're presented with what you could, I could see someone looking at, some of this stuff and going, that's writing. I can get that.
Yeah.
How do you go about deciphering that when you literally have no other anything? Now,
There's no context.
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah, it's not like there's $1 million or a million different translations, like TV remote instructions or something like that.
right. It's not like you have a Rosetta Stone, which if you know stuff about history, like the Rosetta Stone is really important in being able to, ancient Egyptian and Greek and stuff, because there are multiple languages on the Rosetta Stone. So it's like, oh, look, it's the same passage written in 3 languages. Now we can start to decipher the language we don't know and learn
Right.
it. Like,
Here's
there's
the
nothing
dictionary.
like that here because the aliens didn't.
And the only way that works is you have to start with a language you know
Exactly.
being
The
translated.
aliens, when
Yep.
they sent their invitations, their weird asteroid ship things, when they sent the invitations, they didn't know where they were going to end up. They didn't know who was going to come. They
Right.
couldn't prepare for that. They couldn't know how these aliens that would show up would speak or read, or if they could, or if they would even have written language. I mean, you could make that assumption, but you don't know.
Right.
And so you have Maggie Robbins there, and like you assume like, okay, she's saying, oh yes, the aliens, they clearly wanted outsiders to learn their language. They set this up so that we could learn it. It's like, how? Was it like an alphabet book? But they don't know any human writing
nothing.
system. Like,
Yeah.
and there's not like, A is for apple. Like that works on Earth where, you can conceivably think that most people know what an apple does. They probably don't. You'd probably want R is for rock or whatever in your language, because at least most people know what a rock is.
Yes.
When you see it, right? So I don't know how she was learning this, let alone in what seems to be like 2 hours, which I can't even learn an Earth language in 2 hours. Like, I could get the
Yes.
grammar for partially, but I'm also working from a alphabet that I know, or a writing system that I know, or something, completely a priori. It just takes me out of the game a little bit. And I get it. It's a game and whatever, but it just takes me completely out of it, where it's just sort of like, oh, well, we have a linguist, she could decipher languages, here you go.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Which the other thing too is I feel like it's totally superfluous. There's no reason to even have that at all. You're talking about a super ultra advanced alien technology. All you have to do is have her, and she does not need to know anything about linguistics. Have her be a journalist for whatever reason, touch a rock, get shocked, and then, oh my god, now I know the language. Like, that would be
or like
way
or
more
find
believable.
some kind of device that the aliens made that like just makes weird noises at them, and then eventually starts saying words because it's a universal translator that's learning their language as they talk.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
That would be
They
cool.
have-
Yeah,
I mean, that's how I
give
would do it
something-
because there's all these other devices already.
And
Like, they invented a
They
bunch
can
of crap.
fucking
Like, why
walk
not?
on light and bring people
I
back
know,
from the
yes.
dead.
Why not invent a universal translator? Like, you know, that can learn, like, that's like Google Translate, but better and not Google, and can actually learn.
That would be
That-
really
learn
funny
language.
to
That was
find
the-
Google on an alien world. Just be like,
That was the
Google
thing.
Translate?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the thing that kept bothering me about it, is I'm like, how come these aliens have all these incredible technologies, but what they don't have is a simple, like, hologram that would just, all they'd have to do is, like, show a picture of a rock and then a word.
Yeah.
They don't do even that. They just have,
Yeah.
like, she just, like, is staring at this console that, as far as she knows, could be a fucking toilet.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot from
Somehow
this
learning the
toilet.
language.
Shut up. I think I know how to apply this shampoo to my hair. At least I think it's shampoo.
But it's true. Oh, that bugged me so much
Yeah.
in the game. And I don't know anything about linguists, but that was like my number one, like, the fuck?
Yeah.
No.
I'm just like, this isn't how languages work. Like, this isn't how you. This isn't. Like, I get that there's urgency and you need to learn it quickly, and perhaps there was some kind of interface that was like rock, word, and then at least you could start learning the writing system. But
But they don't even talk about
Like,
this. She just is
imagine-
like, I'm just reading this library. And I'm like,
yeah,
How?
let's just do this thought experiment, right? So you have come across this device, this alien device, and it does that, where it has like a picture of a thing and then it has the written word. And maybe it says the word to you as well. Like, this is a thing.
That's the
And so it
only
does
way
that.
that you'd be able to understand the
So here's the problem with
inventor.
that. So you come up with nouns, so you can kind of do nouns. It's like, okay, rock, tree, creature, you know, whatever. Like, you could do that, bottle, I don't know,
Yeah.
other nouns. You could get there. When you get to verbs,
yeah.
how do you communicate that to someone who doesn't know your language in a picture form? So, like, reading, let's just, you know, say it's an alien visiting Earth, so I can use this metaphor. So, like, book. So you have a picture of a book, and it says book, and it has the word in English, because we're going from there, book. And the alien's like, okay, book, I get that. That thing there, which I may or may not have any idea what that is, but that is book, and that's the symbol for
Right.
it. Okay, cool. Now we have a picture of book, and then a stick figure holding it. And it says, read. How do you interpret that?
hold.
Assuming
Then
that
you
you're an
stare at
alien,
that.
like, assuming that the alien can even understand what they're seeing, that the stick figure is intended to be a alien creature.
And not just some random hieroglyph going way too fucking fast that could have been
Yeah,
just a
exactly.
picture.
Like, it's like, how
Right.
do you communicate these words, or like adjectives? Some of them you can say, but at the same time, you know, like, for example, in Earth languages, some languages don't have some of the colors that we say in English. Some, like, for example, like, blue is green in a lot of languages. Like, they don't have a word for green. Just anything green is blue. You just say it's blue. And of course, you know, you can look at the colors and say these are like 3 different colors, but they may all be blue in that language.
And yeah, like even in some other languages here on Earth, they have like
Yeah.
13 different ways to describe sea ice.
Yeah, there's a lot of cultural stuff there too, where if you're, you know, an alien race that doesn't read, I mean, you get your information other ways, you know. I mean, it's kind of neat that they added when Maggie's talking to the inventor, and she says to Lo, he says, "Open your mouth," which is their way of saying speak. Which, how does she know that that's what that means? Like that means
That
speak.
could mean
It just
vomit.
means open your mouth.
Ah.
Like if you're translating it literally,
Sorry.
open your mouth.
Right.
Okay. I mean, you can get there and think, oh, he just said that. Like maybe that means speak. But there's a lot of complications that you can't. Has anyone ever seen Arrival?
No.
Watch Arrival. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Just watch Arrival. It's very, very good. Anyone listening, this is an amazing movie. The central character is a linguist. She's learning an alien a priori language. It's awesome. Watch it. This movie does it right. And by watching it, you'll kind of see what I mean, because a lot of the things that I'm bringing up are things like, how do you, when you're talking to someone, you're trying to learn their language, and you have completely different cultures, and not like completely different Earth cultures, completely different cultures. Like they don't even have the
completely
same
different.
number of limbs that we do, like kind of a thing. They
Right.
look at things differently. They
kinda look
come
like
from a
a-
completely different planet.
Like a horse and a seahorse had a baby, and it ended up looking like a dog. I don't know how to describe them. Like, I'm open to suggestions, but that's what they reminded me of. I didn't even think they were the dominant species when I looked at the pictures in the museum. I was like, oh, that is not the dominant species. This is like a lapdog. I was like, no.
You know what I thought they
What?
were? I thought they were chickens.
I was gonna say they look a lot more like chickens to me, but chickens with high heels.
Yeah, I was like, okay, so they're getting some chickens together. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's more chickens now. Wait. Huh?
there's a hole in the mountain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did these chickens have to do
Okay,
with that?
there's a dead chicken. There's a dead
a fucking
chicken.
hell of
There's
a
a
chicken
rock.
egg.
There's a dead chicken. The dead chicken's exploding.
Yeah, like, why would you do that to your dominant species and, like, not your chicken? Like, don't you experiment with animals? Like, why would you do that to humans?
Well, maybe they are more sophisticated and more civilized and don't experiment on animals. because
Okay,
they-
that is a granted cultural touch point, but, like, there seems to be some inherent danger. Like, if you're teaching, like, oh, like, how would you teach an alien species that if you crack this thing open on, like, a dead thing, it comes back to life? I wouldn't do it on, like, my dead grandma. I'd be like, oh, you see that roadkill over there? Crack it open. See, it's alive. That's why I didn't think they were the dominant species. Like,
Oh, I got you. But again, like a cultural thing. But anyway, the point, like I'm hammering on this a little hard, and it is a game that came out in 1995. And as we discussed earlier, well, as we didn't really discuss it, but Chandler told us earlier about the history of this game is it went through a really fraught development cycle. Like it almost never
Yeah.
happened. So I don't want to be hammering on this like, guys, this is so terrible. It's just more of a, I think it's flawed. Here's why I think it's flawed.
Spielberg did
And-
it wrong.
Yeah.
I can completely understand why they have the shortcuts and why it's like this isn't really we don't really care. By the way, if any of you are thinking, I wonder if there's a novelization, don't.
Yeah, there is.
Don't.
It doesn't exist.
I have read the novelization. It unfortunately does exist, and don't even waste your time. Just
It's like
watch
Brink.
the game played on YouTube. If you don't actually want to play it, you'll get the story. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like,
if you read the novelization, it's like Brink after getting resurrected. It just comes back
it's-
wrong.
oh, it's just,
So
it's not good.
I haven't read the book, obviously. I wanted to know, because I knew of the book. Does it follow the same story as the game?
Oh yeah, it follows the game pretty well, but it doesn't add anything to it. It doesn't elaborate on anything, and it's just bad.
So,
And the
well, okay,
characters
I can
are
tell you
still
exactly,
one note. Like nothing's really changed.
I can tell you exactly why it's bad, and I haven't even read it. Here's why it's bad. The game is full of plot holes, but you might be distracted enough by the game to miss
And
the
the
plot
production
holes.
values of
When
the
you're
game,
reading
it is
and the production values of the game, when you're reading a book, there only is plot holes.
Yes, and
You're left with a gaping chasm of plot holes.
This story
Yeah.
brought to you by Tom, the man who never read the book.
Yo.
Am I right though?
No, you're not wrong.
That's what makes it even
It's all
better.
plot holes and characters that you don't like or care about, and it's unfortunate. And I say that's unfortunate because I think this concept on the whole is really cool, and I would love to see it done like as a book or as a film or a television
Yes.
show for that. Because I think if you had like really strong writing and really great characters, like on par with like The Expanse, right? Like you could get. I love The Expanse. Just
Yeah, that one's a given.
just get that out there. Like that it's great. So like in my opinion. So like I think you could get this story and tell it really well if you have really compelling characters and really interesting details and actually try to think about different ways that human characters could interact in this world that's dead and abandoned as far as they know, and still try to learn about these aliens. Like I think it could be done, and I think it could be really fascinating. And you could go the happy ending route, or you can go a cosmic horror route with it. Like, I mean, I want to read that. You know,
It would
like
be good.
I mean, I also want to read the happy ending version. Like, I don't know. Like I think the idea, there's a lot of merit to it. And
Yeah.
and like I said earlier with the other things that I like is that there are genuine moments when you're just walking around where you just feel in awe and in wonder of these vistas, and you just wonder, who were these people? What were they doing? How long have they been gone? Like, why did they send these, ships out? Like, how did they, like, oh, I have so many questions that aren't really answered. And then of course you could have your inventor character or whatever that you somehow interact with that is just like, fuck everything, life is terrible, it was awful, I destroyed my people. Which, I mean, this is a motif that I really like, that kind of like, war doctor kind of thing, if you're a Doctor Who fan, kind of, whatever. But anyway,
Yeah.
so so that's my rant about this.
Yeah, it's. I
so-
pretty much agree with you, but like
Yeah.
go ahead and finish. Sorry.
No, I'm just gonna close out with a segue to you guys. But I think the concept's great, and like I said, the music's awesome, and I do enjoy the game, but it's not like it just. There's so many holes and flaws that it kind of is sad because it could be something more than it is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I sit with it. So I really like it still, for as flawed as it is, and I'm glad it exists. But it's just kind of sad because it could be so much more, and it could be so much better. And
Oh, absolutely.
I'd like to see something like it that's done better.
Yeah.
But I want to hear, now that I've ranted for so long, I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are, different things from what I brought up and we talked about, and what you think about the mechanics, because I know, Chandler, you're like zoned in on that, and
Yeah.
boy, there's stuff to talk about there.
Yeah, I got some thoughts on that, but do you want to talk about your thoughts overall, Tom?
Oh, I mean, I guess if you want me to go first,
Well,
I can.
I will rant the rest of the time, guaranteed, about this game, but I don't want to be like taking up all the air with that rant. So,
Well, I think what most of what Devin said pretty much coincides with what I have to think about it, but there are a few things I'd like to add. Like, I think my main problem with it, like the mechanics, I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about that, because I do have some issues with that, so I'll just leave that alone.
You and me both.
But yeah, like the main problem that I had with it is just absolutely nothing makes any sense throughout the entire thing. I found myself constantly being ripped out of the storyline by just going, wait, what? Wait, what? Wait, why? Because like,
yeah.
Oh, quick
quick
question.
this asteroid. Oh yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. I'm so sorry. I want to know. You said you didn't actually finish it. How far did you get?
I meant to actually. I was going to interject even while you were telling the story and being like, this is new. But yeah, I never resurrected the alien.
Okay.
I think I was starting that mission when I
Okay.
I stopped. But yeah, so I guess I don't even know if we talked about that on here, but I did not finish the game if we haven't talked about that before. I got pretty far in. So the main problem I had was like I said, fright from the very beginning. First time I got pulled away from the storyline, because originally I was like, oh man, this is cool. You know, the asteroid's coming in, and they're like talking about, oh god, it's going to intersect with Earth, and I was like, all right,
And the
I can
music's
dig
so
this.
good.
I was waiting for
Yes.
Bruce
Feelings.
Willis, honestly.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Totally. 100%. And then they're like introducing the characters, and it's just like what you said when they're describing their jobs, and I'm sitting there going, why the hell is a journalist on this? I don't understand.
Because she can set nuclear charges.
Like,
Oh yeah,
they
that
glossed
that
over
helps.
that so fucking lightly. Like, how did she know how to plant nuclear charges? Did she do espionage before she became like? Yeah, I will rant about that
I
later.
swear to God, for like 3 minutes after they introduced her, I was sitting there going, why would they bring a journalist? That's just so... No, NASA wouldn't bring a journalist.
And they
That's
never-
insane.
And they never actually say why. Like, it feels like
No!
It feels like if that was incidental, like, well, we need our nuclear expert here, but it just happens to be that she's a journalist. Like, that would have
Yeah,
been
like she
one
minored
thing.
in journalism
But they
or
keep,
something.
But they keep like talking about her being a journalist. Like, that's the main reason they're bringing her. And it's like
Right.
one of the things where it's like, okay, so
That's
is
the-
this like this weird sexist thing where it's like, oh, well, we're bringing this woman, but never mind that she can set nuclear charges, and that's why we're bringing her. She's a fucking journalist.
Yeah, but they didn't.
She's only good for
The,
drama.
the other
it's-
only other woman that is ever encountered in this game is the fucking senator up for re-election, and
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah.
treat her with nearly the amount of disrespect that they treat poor Maggie with.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, and that was the other plot hole I ran into is they constantly are disrespecting her and treating her like she has no idea how to do her job. And the entire time that they're talking to her about that and just being total pricks, I'm sitting here going, I know how astronauts work. They would have trained for months before they even sent her on this. I'm like, there's no fucking way they don't think she knows how to do her job. Like, it's not like they just grabbed a journalist and was like, you're an astronaut now, and shoved her into a uniform and threw her onto a spaceship. Like,
Yeah, that's how they treat it
that's
too.
not how this works.
It's insane.
Like, even if they were looking for someone that can set nuclear charges, is a linguist, and has other various random ass skills, like, even if they were doing that, they would still train her. They would not just be like, okay, you're going to space now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Here you
the
go.
team
Bye.
would have been working together for hours and hours and hours and hours and
Yes.
weeks before doing this mission.
Yeah.
Like,
Which actually brings me to the next thing that pisses me off about that, which was I also know about astronaut training, and one of the things that they talk about with this is making sure that the people that are going up there are A, super easy to get along with, and B, all of them are compatible and get along because you're stuck in a tiny little capsule for God knows how long. So the fact that the entire time no one on the team gets along just made me
no,
like, what the
They
fuck?
got along perfectly.
read-
They were just 3 cardboard cutouts in a suit.
Tom, have you read Chris Hadfield's book about being an astronaut?
I have not, but I am a huge Chris Fat.
Okay, because I was wondering, because I
Hadfield
have
fan.
read his book, and I thought about that a lot playing through the game this time, thinking that exact, because he talks about that. He talks about the training they go through and what you need to do to build a team, and like how NASA will select a team, and then like how you're like even how you manage yourself when you're with
Yeah.
the team, so that you could be a team. So
Yes. And so I mean, like, I know that this all seems super nitpicky, but if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, why are they harping on this so bad? It's because the entire game, the whole way through the game, basically all the characters do is just be shitty to each other.
Absolutely
Like,
shitty to each
it's
other.
all the way
true.
through.
It's true.
And it's just like we brought up before, like I wanted to like the journalist because it's kind of like in the beginning of the game, it's trying to set her up as like the underdog that like no one believes in. And so at first I was like, okay, well, she's probably going to be like awesome.
Yeah, no, it was.
And she kind of is, but instead, like there's several points where the main character, I guess if you want to call him that, kind of apologizes to her and is like, I'm sorry that I'm being so shitty to you. Maybe I shouldn't be so shitty to you. And she's like, no, bitchy response, fuck off, and just like moves on. So like every single time one of the characters tries to reach out with an olive branch, the other character just stoops to a new low level.
Yeah.
And you can't like any of them. You're just like, well, all right, everyone sucks.
Yeah,
Here's a
absolutely.
different example with Lo and Brink. So they arrive at the alien planet, and Lo is like, understandably, okay, I'm the leader of the team. I'm in charge. I'm going to say what we're doing. And Brink is like, no, now we're on an archaeological dig site and I need to be in charge. For no reason? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Which is not how
I mean,
any of that works.
Yeah, right?
I can understand him wanting to not ruin Data and to want to be very careful. Like, that makes complete sense to me. But, like, the way he's like, well, no, you can't be in charge anymore because this is now my arena. It's like, you're actually in more danger. I feel like the guy with more experience with that might be the better option, but no, apparently not.
Yeah, no, I have to go on this
But they
power
just,
trip in the middle of the fucking alien world. What?
Yeah, all of them. And it's kind of funny with the animations because you know how Brink is giving Lo like shit about using the shovel and ruining everything, and then finally he gives him enough shit about it that Lo's like, okay, fine, you could use the shovel from now on. And Brink takes the shovel and then starts shoveling, and it's the exact same way that Lo does it because
Yeah.
it's the exact same animation, but it becomes like unintentionally funny because it's like, no, I'm the expert, you're just digging shit, and then he just proceeds to dig like digging shit. Like,
exactly the same way. Yeah. Well, and that was the other thing that kind of, you reminded me that pissed me off too, because like NASA is set up kind of like a military organization in that there are like hierarchies and like command structure.
Yep.
And like, yeah, when Brink is just like, well, I'm in charge now, I'm like, wow. if you could have selected
Bitch slap.
less competent people. No, you couldn't have selected less competent people. Like these are the worst. You could select a bunch of random people from the street, and they would almost certainly comport themselves with more professionalism than any of the characters do on this
I
entire
don't know.
game.
A group of oil drillers?
Yeah!
Sorry, I'm harping on that
Right.
because the first like 10 to 15 minutes of this game is the plot of Armageddon, except stupid.
Yep.
Like, I
Yes,
didn't think that would
so stupid.
pass my lips, that something was dumber than Armageddon. But this
it
is
is.
definitely there. Don't get me wrong. I like Armageddon.
so is.
It's an entertaining film.
Yeah, yeah.
I have to turn my brain off while
too.
watching it. That's fine. This game, you have to turn your brain off for, like, the entire duration. Because you are watching Armageddon in slow motion with less likable characters. Like, you have a sock puppet, a cardboard cutout, and a zombie as the main characters. I will let you decide
that's
which
about
ones
right.
are which. Spoiler alert, the zombie is Brink.
Yes. Yes, definitely Brink.
Yes.
Well, and so then that's the other part too that just pissed me off. So they get off this thing, they go flying through, whatever, they get teleported to the alien planet. And then the game really started to not make any sense to me. So I'm sitting here going, okay, so the premise of this is that this alien culture sent a rock to a whole bunch of, like an asteroid, to a whole bunch of different planets that were inhabited, so that they could like bring these aliens here, so they could learn about this way that they've kind of ascended essentially. And the way they do that is by sending an asteroid to destroy their planet.
Okay.
On the off chance that they might be able to somehow investigate this asteroid, and then they teleport a group of these aliens to a planet where there's no food, and we don't even know, like you said earlier, they don't even know what aliens they're going to meet.
Or if
so
they'll be able to
they get
breathe their
sent to this-
fucking air.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You don't even know if they can fucking breathe, so they just basically send this suicide mission of all these people without consent to this planet, and then give them a bunch of shitty puzzles to solve.
Yeah.
For what?
Here's
Like,
a
what are they
wand
supposed
with
to
geometric
do?
shapes on it. I hope you're ready to play D&D, I guess.
I'm a level 12 chicken.
Let's say that somehow this unbelievably convoluted bullshit that these aliens have to go through to figure out how to ascend or whatever. Let's say they figure it out. Well, then what? The like small group of aliens that went there get to ascend, and if they didn't move the asteroid, the planet gets destroyed. If they did move the asteroid, the whole planet just kind of goes, huh? What happened to them?
Yeah, right? Like, they didn't pick up. Like,
So
I left a message.
I have
They
a
all
feeling-
disappeared.
I have a feeling based on the opening cinematic to the game is that they forgot to say that the asteroid came at Earth and then got into orbit somehow.
Yeah.
Like it because it's clearly not moving closer to Earth. Like NASA wouldn't have waited until the asteroid was that close.
Yeah, you can...
To like.
Oh, that was
send
the
a
other thing. I
thing
was
up.
like, Jesus Christ, they waited to the last minute.
I know, because it's like, no, you're dead at this point if the asteroid is moving.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, like, think back to when Oumuamua came through our solar system from outside the solar system. Like, it was moving so fast, nobody knew it was here until suddenly it was here. And if Earth had been in a different position, we could all be dead right now. We wouldn't be having this conversation because it was that fast.
And this
So-
was the
Yeah.
exact same way. Like, oh,
Yeah.
we see it on the outside of the system. Wait, it's on our doorstep and
on our
somehow
doorstep.
not killing us right now?
Well, yeah, and that was the other thing. Yeah, because you're right. Like, if it went into orbit, why would you move it? Like, we would love to have, and that's just another asset. That's another resource that we could potentially tap.
Let's
if an
mine
asteroid
this
moved
shit.
into orbit, great. Yeah, let's mine it. Why would you just be like, no, go
Yeah.
away?
So,
Let's try.
And then-
let's
so, like-
try and blow it up with nukes and like get it to move away from the Earth. But maybe the nukes will break off chunks that then will cause problems on Earth. Like, let's do that. That seems
Yeah,
smart.
yeah,
So-
yeah.
okay.
Basically, my problem with this is that at absolutely no point during the entire story does anything ever make any sense.
Okay, so
It's very clear. Well, hang
Okay.
on, let me finish. So it's very clear to me that like you can tell that the story, like the group changed hands like a whole bunch of times, because it's like at some point they completely lost the point of the game, and it's like no one noticed. They'd all been playing or screwing around with this for so long that they're just like, yeah, we'll make this happen, and then we'll make that happen, and then the game was done, and they're like, this is a really cool, beautiful game, and someone was like, have you guys played it all the way through or thought about the story at all? And they're all like, well, but then we changed.
oh shit.
Oh my god, we lost it, didn't we? It's all
we have
gone.
to make this back somehow.
There's-
Yeah.
Nothing motivates anyone. Oh, and that's the other thing too that drove me a little bit crazy about
before
it.
Before you
No-
run off,
Okay, go ahead.
As much as I don't like the intro to this game, because I'm here to play a game, not watch an intro cinematic that's
watch
like
a movie,
15
yeah.
minutes long.
Yes.
The logic behind what they do actually does make a bit of sense. If you're paying attention, they attach the nukes to one side of the asteroid. And
Oh yeah.
That makes
and
sense.
it's there
Oh, yeah.
not to blow it up, but to push its orbit out.
Push it.
Right.
So it won't hit the planet.
Yes.
That
No,
makes sense.
Yeah, no, I'm totally on board with that. What I'm saying is let's put nukes on it and do everything this way, and then what happens if it's completely hollow, it breaks apart, and the force doesn't push it, and you actually get huge chunks falling into the Earth's atmosphere. Like, that's...
Yeah, they never survey it. They
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
At this point, at the point this game was made, we didn't really know what asteroids were made of or anything, so, like, anything could happen.
Anything goes.
They just
yeah.
Yeah.
instead of looking at it and trying to be like, okay, we have an asteroid in orbit now. Let's try and figure out how to get rid of it if we want to get rid of it. It's more okay. Let's just put a
let's
nuke
blow
on
it
it,
up.
and blow it open.
Yeah.
And they go looking. Lowe is there specifically, the only person on the team who knows that he's looking for signs of alien life.
Yeah. Like they
Yeah.
release that one.
Which that was weird. Why are they looking for alien life?
Oh, well, it's a big asteroid
Why-
from
why
outside the
send-
planet. They're outside the solar system.
Why send a fucking? I mean, because the premise they're building to is like, hey, we're gonna send a linguist because maybe aliens. And I was like,
That was stupid.
that's fine.
That was stupid.
Well, but it could be okay if you set it up. I'm like, if you set up like I'm here to decipher alien languages, then please put something in there to like suggest why they would think that's a possibility, but instead they're just like, an asteroid's coming, and we're like, what if there's writing on it?
Right? Like, okay,
An asteroid's coming. What if there's writing on it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! I feel like
that's
if we did episode titles, I feel
that would be the episode title.
should be the title.
Yeah. But
An asteroid's coming.
yeah. Okay, so I gotta do one
Sorry.
more interjection. Like,
Yes.
the
Okay.
asteroid idea is kind of clever because
Yes.
they
Yes.
bring
yes.
it in.
I like that.
And you know, if this thing's just been floating around on like low energy mode, flying around looking for like radio transmissions or something, I'm giving the writer a lot of leeway on this as a side note. And then it's like, oh shit, radio signal, and then it starts zooming in. It's probably got like, I don't know, a few millennia worth of like asteroids and shit collected on it, so it would look like an asteroid. It is a ship, but it would look like an asteroid flying in. So I thought that was kind of cool.
True.
But
Yeah, and I if they'd set it up like
But
that, it would
they
have been
didn't.
cool.
they
didn't do that,
implied
though. Yeah,
it,
that was
but they
the
didn't
problem.
do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the one piece of like, okay, I'll be on board with you, game. I can suspend my disbelief just enough to give you this.
Just enough.
I
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I will say, because I will agree with that, but if they should have set it up. If they had said like the asteroid was acting in an anomalously, or not, what do you call anomal? I can't say it. Anyway, if they were saying like basically like the orbit that it was coming in on like changed, like it changed direction.
Yeah.
I would have been like, cool, okay, then there's a reason to suspect that maybe
there's writing on
there's
it.
something
or-
alien.
Yeah, somebody was reading Rama and went, "Oh wait,
Right.
it's changing direction and speed and stuff. Maybe that means there's life on it. Maybe it's not actually an
Yeah.
asteroid; it's a ship."
Then there would be a
And if
good
they had
fucking
done-
reason to send a geologist and a linguist on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't
and then-
even have
Yeah.
to
and
bring
then
a
bouncing back
journalist
to what-
into the thing.
Right? Yeah.
Journalists never should have been there.
And bouncing back to what Tom was saying earlier about why this team would never go up into space at all in the state that it's in, everyone would know the main part of their mission, even if the public didn't know it.
Yes.
They would
Yes.
know.
Thank
that
you.
They
That
were
was the other
looking
thing that
for-
pissed me off.
That they were looking.
Oh,
for
by the way,
alien
I'm the
life.
only one that knew about this. But
Yeah.
but you brought a linguist. Why?
There was no reason
it
to
wasn't
bring
even
half of the
her.
people on there.
Imagine the liability.
Like she was like, really? And I'm like, why else would you be there? Like,
to set the nukes.
ah. But
It
but-
was a button
so
press,
dumb.
and she didn't even arm them. Lo did.
No, I
No.
know the fuck. Ah! Anyway,
Yeah.
I've said
And so-
enough. I need to be done.
So this is the last point that I will make, and then I will pass the keys to
Oh,
Chandler,
oh boy.
which is
Oh boy.
that the other thing that really drove me crazy about everything was nobody freaks out at any point.
It's so weird.
They're all so freaking chill the whole
Okay, so
time.
there it's a cucumber attached to a cardboard cutout, a cucumber filling a sock
Yes.
puppet, and a zombie with a cucumber.
Like they
Phrasing.
blow the nukes. Like everyone being calm up until that point makes sense.
Yes.
But they blow the nukes, they go and investigate the asteroid. I'm totally on board up until this point. Then they find these like things that look like alien structures, and everyone's like, "Oh, what's that?" And then they like, maybe we push on it.
That
and they
doesn't
like
look
push on
natural.
it, and it opens. Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, it's more stuff." And then they like go in and they're like, "Oh, we're in an alien spaceship now." And rather than even really address the fact that they're inside an alien spaceship now, they're still just fucking bickering at each other.
Yeah.
Like nothing's changed. They're all like, "Nah, this is cool. We expected this."
It's fine.
It's every Monday, you know. It's just what you do.
Don't worry
And
about
then
it. I've seen many.
and then
alien
they-
spaceships.
Hold on. This is a
Yeah, and then they
mind-shattering
solve-
moment in our society. No, in our fucking species.
Yes!
But I got a bone
Freak
to
out
pick
a
with
little.
you, Miss Reporter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is gonna be a story for you. Shut up.
Stupid sock puppet.
And then And then they solve this puzzle, but they just immediately assume it's a puzzle. That was the other thing. I was like, what? And so they solve this really simple puzzle, and then they teleport to another freaking planet. Okay, maybe somehow they've managed to stay calm up until this point. But now you've been teleported in a faster-than-light ship to another planet, and they show up on the planet.
And continue bickering.
And they're just like, yeah, immediately! There's no, like, panic! They're just like, oh, well, I guess we're on this other planet now.
Yeah.
Huh.
Ah,
Weird.
stupid reporter.
Our suit says
And then-
that it's breathable air out there, so I'm
and then just
going
immediately
to...
take the helmet off.
Yeah, like,
Immediately take the
Who the
helmet off.
fuck puts an extra, like, what, $4,000 to $8,000 worth of mass spectrometer on a fucking spacesuit?
Yeah! In 1995.
I know America was fucking flush at the time, but damn!
Like, damn, yeah. And then they're like wandering around the whole time. No one ever flips. You never hear somebody. I think they might mention something about how they don't have. Do they mention not having supplies, or am I just imagining?
They
that
do
wrong?
say they don't have food and supplies because, like, we need to
Okay,
save
I
the
vaguely
oxygen
remember
for the
that.
trip back. Really, oxygen is what you're going to worry about?
Oxygen. There's oxygen everywhere, but we're worried about oxygen. And that was the thing too, is like if I got there, I'd have a freaking meltdown for one.
Oh, God, yeah.
And then the very first thing I'd be saying is, we're gonna die because there's nothing to eat.
Yeah, or
And
drink.
They all immediately assume, like, well, we just have to find out how to get back. I'm like, why would they make that assumption? I wouldn't even, that would not even cross my mind. I would get there and I'd be like, we're dead.
Yeah,
We just
straight up
accidentally,
Well,
teleported. They don't know there's any intention to get them back home or anything.
Right.
There's nothing implies that at all. For all they know, they just found a random teleporter floating through space and pushed a button and went boop and teleported back to this planet, and now they're
Yeah.
fine.
yeah. Now, if you can imagine the situation, like say, like The Martian, like you are in a situation where you will probably die, and you'd really rather not die. That you just work the problem. Like, maybe you're
Yes,
never going to
yes.
get home. Maybe you're here forever. Maybe you die of starvation, but you work the problem. But, I mean, kind of like Mark Watney, I mean, in The Martian, he kind of does have a freak-out moment before he's like, okay, how do I stay alive? What do? And, like, that would be much more realistic to be like, okay, yeah, I don't think we're going to get home, but let's work on stuff. Let's just go, let's work on it. You know, instead of just being
Mark
like, oh,
Watney-
here we are.
Yay.
And Mark Watney immediately starts working the problem, which is survival.
Survival.
The problem is not wandering around an ancient alien structure. You go, oh shit, we don't have food, we don't have water, we don't have shelter. We need to find food, water, and shelter before
Anything Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
And if maybe on the off chance we can find those things, then we can start considering exploring. But instead they're just like,
Well,
oh, look, puzzles.
you may have to do some exploring to find things, right? But I mean, I get
Well,
you.
yes.
Like, I get you.
But
though. Like,
that's never the focus.
the-
They're
the-
all
the
just like,
problem
we need to solve
isn't-
the puzzle of getting home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you even think you can?
Yeah.
Why do you think that's
I
an
know.
option?
Like, it's like I can get that you want to. You can assume that, but like they come to a planet and nobody's there to welcome them. Like,
right.
I had this
it's
thought.
clearly
like,
abandoned.
if I were writing this story, right, and they arrive and it looks like it's abandoned, there's ruin, like there's just scrubs growing everywhere, it's just dirt and dust, and there's like just little critter sounds, and there's nobody there, and then like they walk forward a little bit, and then like a hologram flickers on, and it's one of the aliens speaking in their language, like a welcome,
Yeah.
like a welcome, but they don't know that. And it's just like ghostly and eerie because there's no way to know what this image is saying or what its
Right.
purpose is or where anyone is. And then now
That way you could at least prime the pump of, hey, maybe there's a way home if this hologram still works.
exactly. It's like
Yeah.
maybe they never like maybe this isn't just a random teleporter, maybe there is a way to turn the ship on and go back home.
Yeah.
We just need to find
And
what
if-
that is. But that still should be secondary to we need food, water, shelter, or otherwise we're not going to survive,
Yeah.
you know,
And
long
the
enough.
thing of it is, you don't have to change anything in the game to set
No.
that up. All you have to do is have the commander go, "Hey, we all need to find food. It's time for us to start exploring and see if there's anything on this
Yeah.
planet that will keep us alive. And then you just keep the game the same and have them explore things, but with the understanding that everyone's looking for, like,
They
sustenance.
kind of do
And
that,
then-
but they don't signpost it nearly well enough.
Oh my god, they make everyone so chill that the only thing you can think the whole time is like, well, these people, it feels like you could tell the people who are writing the story knew there was a solution to the puzzle, and so all the people, all the
They
characters
metagamed their character.
also know. They
Yeah.
literally metagamed their characters.
There's-
It's like you need to understand your
hilarious.
character's motivations
There's no
when you're writing a
urgency
story.
to the story
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
None. And that's the other thing. You don't see the characters running around or like trying to do anything with any amount of haste. They're all just kind of like, even the animations, everyone's just like walking all super chill and just like, I got all the time in the world. I'm not on a super tight clock because
Yeah.
I mean, we're humans. We can only survive literally a couple days before we die if you don't have food and water.
Yeah, they
Especially water.
like
Especially water.
in one scene while you're reconstructing the turtle,
oh god.
Lo does actually say,
Yeah.
"Hey, at least we won't die of thirst." But he never actually takes the time and is like, "Oh yeah, oh this smells like water," or "Oh man, this tastes like fresh water." He never says that,
Right.
and you think a guy who was trained in the military for survival would know this.
Well, that's the other thing too. He just walks straight to the water and drinks out of it.
Does he drink? I don't remember him
Like-
drinking.
I don't remember him drinking.
I remember him just jumping in
If
like
you-
he's going out of style.
Yeah, he just jumps in and is like, no problem. After you kill the
Oh, I
beast.
think you might be right. I was gonna say, I thought if you click on the water and like have him investigate it, I thought he like walks over and like leans down and cups his hand and drinks some water.
I
Maybe
I don't recall that.
I didn't
happening.
try that, so I can't say for sure.
I don't know if I did try that. Well, I know that I clicked on the water and he made the comment about, well, at least we won't die of thirst. We'll just die of hunger because there's nothing to eat.
But then there's that fucking turtle.
I might be remembering that wrong.
Yeah, I don't
But yeah,
know. I don't recall if that happens.
Jumping is
Jumping
actually
actually
more
doesn't,
stupid.
yeah.
So, like, first of all, when you drink water out of, even if you're drinking water out of a lake, most people don't just dive in to drink the water. So, like,
Yeah.
none of it makes
There-
sense. That's my main complaint about this entire game is every single action that the characters or the storyline takes is like leaves you baffled. You're just like,
Yeah.
that's not how that what.
That's
Yeah.
not how
It's like you
people do
said.
things.
The game has a cool, interesting premise. If you have a game that is an asteroid and all of that stuff, and like they discover the ship, there are so many cool ways that you can do that that would be so memorable and so interesting. But every decision that the developers made along the way, like, roadblocked that. It's almost like the game is surprisingly successful despite itself. You have this good premise, and just every turn the developers are going, hey, we're going to put up this big thing that is going to rip you out of the storyline and go,
Well,
"What?"
to be fair, this is also somebody coming in and being like, okay, I have all of these previous things. How do I tie them together? Because they had
Yeah.
all of
Right.
these
Yeah.
gorgeous
That's
assets.
the problem.
And they had all of the puzzles already made. So
So they just threw
Yeah.
them together, and
This-
yeah,
this is-
and very thinly stitched them together.
this is what a plot written around mechanics looks like. After the idea.
bad.
Because the idea is
Uh-huh.
pretty
Yep.
sound. I agree with Devin on that. But the plot is
Yep.
threadbare because they didn't have time to finish it. They spent all of their time making the assets and the puzzles.
Yep.
Although I will say, because we in this little conversation we've had already have solved a lot of the problems by we've given solutions that would have been maybe not perfect, but certainly better.
Well, keep in mind that hindsight is 2020, and when you're in
Oh,
perpetual
yeah.
crunch like these developers were, you should look at their
Yeah.
credits. It is quite impressive how many people actually touched this. Because they even
Oh,
have
yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
It's huge.
developers in spirit because they threw away that engine. They left
Yeah,
them in the
ghosts,
credits.
Yep.
The ghosts of Dig Past,
Yeah.
I believe is how they're listed. It's everyone who worked on the project that wasn't on the project when it went to complete when it was completed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Which that is true, but I mean, I still think it's a completely fair criticism.
Oh,
of the
I'm not
game that-
debating that. I was just saying, like, if you're in constant crunch mode, trying to get this game out in the summer of
Yeah.
'91, because that was a goal at one point,
Yeah.
you would be like,
And if it had, it would
oh
have
yeah,
been amazing.
yeah, that would have been the top game of the year, hands down, for adventure games, hands down.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it didn't, because they were putting themselves in constant
No.
crunch for so long that the game became what it
Got
yeah,
drunk.
go home game, you're drunk. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And to be
Yep.
fair, all of that polish does pay off, and because of that polish, it makes it a cult classic game. If you slapped on modern pixel art to this and a modern soundtrack and kept everything else the same, this game would be forgotten almost immediately.
That's true.
Like, it's the production values of the game at the time that saved it for cult classic status. Because
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful
It's a-
game. Absolutely.
the story as it is right now is a B, maybe C side plot in a sci-fi movie
Yeah.
or show. I think Spielberg was right when he said this is a one episode plot. And yeah,
Yeah.
it would fit
Yeah.
perfectly in about a 45-minute chunk. The problem is
It's a really good Black Mirror
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the problem is it's in a game that you have to spend 3 to 5 hours figuring out. Like,
Yeah.
it's a short game if you have the instructions. Like, I think I hammered this out in like an hour and a half. That being said,
Yeah.
the game puzzles themselves are mildly interesting. The animation in this is gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
If
It
you
is.
want a class on how to make your pixel art amazing, you have to play this
Oh,
game.
yes.
And I have to say, the MVP and why you dig so much shit is that fucking digging animation. Like,
Yup.
they use it a dozen times for a good reason.
Yup.
The shovel is the most valuable tool.
It's great.
Period. And they make sure you know that because you dig everything up.
Everything.
You got a problem? Your
Yes.
first thing better be a fucking shovel in this game. And it's for good reason. Oh, there's a hole in the wall. I guess I better shovel it out. Oh, look, there's something that says I need to look here. Well, I guess that's the answer for Mr. Shovel. Yeah. It's for
Yeah.
good reason. The animation is amazing.
yeah.
And the artwork is so good.
The artwork is gorgeous, and adding in
Oh.
the 3D animation
Actually augments it.
just
yeah.
it really
Yes, it
augments it,
does.
like you get these, like that's one of the things, like there's one scene where you there's a ramp down, and so you click to make Low walk down the ramp, but the
Oh, I was
camera
gonna say this.
the camera pulls back, and it's
Yep.
it's 3-dimensional. Like they use the computer, the CGI to make it 3-dimensional, so that the 2D sprite actually walks into a 3-dimensional
And
area. And it's just, it is really
I
beautiful.
yeah.
I've got to say, when it did that, it shocked me because
Yeah.
at that point, the game was playing kind of like a side scroller.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this world that I thought was super static suddenly becomes entirely dynamic and adds this third dimension. And I literally jaw dropped. I was just
Yeah.
like, whoa,
like,
that was unexpected.
imagine-
Holy cow.
Imagine seeing that in 1990. I'll even say it, 1993. Like,
Yeah.
this
Right.
was
Would have been
this was a
amazing.
4-year game, and look at what this game is doing now. You fucking zoom out on
Yeah.
this, and that 3D, although yes, not exactly the best implemented, fucking
Yeah.
pops because one, they use it
does.
in a very limited circumstance, and two,
Yep.
they knew how to do it. They didn't go all Hollywood on it. They knew the limitations of the 3D at the time. They didn't try to do
Yeah.
a George Lucas, which Episode 1 is my case in point, where everything's 3D. This game wouldn't hold up as well if
Right.
it was pure 3D. I venture to
No.
say that. Like, maybe if you did this game in the Unreal Engine today, it might hold up. But
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
terms of a
Yeah.
cult classic, you wouldn't have the same thing. I can almost
Yeah.
guarantee that. Because they use 3D and pixel art with such restraint and respect that the artwork itself is reason enough to play this admittedly subpar puzzle game. Like,
Yep.
I know I'm going to sound like I'm completely broken here, but the mechanics in this game aren't very interesting. The puzzles are, yes, they're kind of archaic and confusing and arcane. So you don't really understand it, but at the end of the day, that is excused by the theming. Whereas, like, in terms of novelty, I'm going to say it, the Beneath the Steel Sky and even, what was the other game we talked about, Devin? The Curse of the the Jade Lady. Ah, fuck. Oh, boy.
What?
The other one that the Beneath the Steel Sky people made.
Oh, Lure of the Temptress.
Lure of the Temptress. Yeah.
Curse of the Jade Lady?
Yep, that's what it's called now. Fuck it, I'm doing it. Curse of the Jade Lady. That's what I'm
Yes.
going to call the title of that episode, just for funsies. But yeah, those games were far more game breaking, or groundbreaking rather, at the time, even if they were considered concurrent with this game, which they weren't. They were before this game. Because the idea of a companion in a adventure game, those are far more groundbreaking mechanically. This game, it took the Blizzard Entertainment method, which was take an existing idea and polish the crap out of it. And because of that, that's why this game we're even talking about.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
this is an unremarkable game otherwise, because the puzzles are, yes, hard, but there's no novel deaths that you can get into. Trust me, I tried. This game does not have deaths that I could find.
No.
Nope.
You cannot
No,
die.
you
matter
cannot
what you do.
die. And I actually believe that the booklet thing that comes with games when you would buy them physical, whatever the hell that's called, that it actually said in there, I think, that you can't die in this
Yeah,
game.
the game manual.
Yeah, the game manual. Thank you. Good lord.
Yeah.
Well, it is a booklet.
Yeah, it's game
But yeah,
book.
the game manual. I believe in the game manual that it says that there's no way to lose. That unlike other games,
Yeah, a direct dig
they
at
won't screw you out of the
Sierra.
game. They won't screw you out of finishing the game.
Yeah. But I think if there was a game to have deaths in it, this would be the game to do it. Like, you're on an alien planet. Everything is so alien, you don't know whether it's a threat or not, barring, like,
Yeah.
the dogs that you see. And yes,
Or the sea monster.
or the sea monster. Like, you don't even know if the turtle's going to kill you. Like,
Yeah.
like, these are all opportunities to show
There's-
off your art skills even more, but they don't, which is
Yeah.
why I say they use such restraint in even the pixel art.
They could have added a sense of urgency in, like, you need to find a way off of this planet in a certain amount of time or you starve to death. That would have been a pretty interesting mechanic.
It would be,
Even if they implied it and didn't actually use it, just give you something to be like, you gotta go.
yeah, like,
Get this done.
I think that because this was a game initially envisioned by a cinematographer, they didn't understand the importance of doing that. That being said, this is a game mechanically that is about wonderment and exploration, even if the theme of the game isn't that. Like, we spent literally an hour arguing about how bad the plot was, but at the core of this game, it's about exploration and wonder. And it does that very, very, very well in its restraint and presentation. And
that's true.
Because of that, I feel like this game deserves its cult classic status. But I agree, mechanically, this game is very bland. But I've played, even in game jams, games that end up being very bland but very polished, and they tend to do very well in terms of how popular they are because of that polish. There is a lot to be said about putting polish on a game, even if it is, at the end of the day, very bland. And
so So Chandler says that you actually can polish a turd.
Yes. Yes, I am actually saying that. And I can't believe, after talking about this game for over 2 hours, that I am coming to defend it on its merits. You sons of bitches.
I win.
I can't believe you made me have to do a passion defense of this game. I can't even talk about the sexism in this game because it's so fucking polished. Like, I can't call Maggie the true villain of this game because she's cold, but she's not evil or anything like that. She's just cold. Like, I can't talk about how Lo is so sexist because he's wolf whistling at her. No, that's not polish. This is polish. There's, like, even the sexism isn't offensive enough to get my cackles up. The only thing that I am left with is one of those superior chicken beings strutting around looking like a dog and telling me that they didn't know that they could walk on fucking light. Like, what do I do with this? This is really well polished, but the only reason I finished this game is because A, I had a walkthrough, and B, I was going to talk about it. That was the only reason.
Yeah.
Like, this game, if you're into story, and you can turn your brain off, and you like pretty.
That's important.
And you like amazing amazing soundscapes. This game is tailor-made for you.
Cool concept, beautiful, super well polished, absolutely idiotic story.
Like dumb as brick stories.
Gorgeous.
Like okay.
Oh, could have been good. Could have been.
Premise amazing.
I don't hate the game. All the holes we're poking in this really probably does make it sound like we all hate it. I think all of us came away from this at least liking some of it. I thought it was very cool. I'm poking lots of holes in it because there were lots of things that made me go, the fuck?
Yeah.
But overall,
I
thought it was a really cool idea. I agree.
I bounced off the story. Like, the intro of, like, 15 fucking minutes. Are you kidding me? That made me...
Yeah, it was a long intro.
Yeah, that made me bounce off of it immediately. And then I started playing it, and I was like, oh my god, I wish I had this art skill to put into my games. And then I finished playing it, and I was like, that was good enough for a fan. Like, I don't know how that happens, but this is good enough for a fan. If you played through the game and you enjoyed it, you will continue to enjoy playing through it again and again. And it doesn't even have to be, like, sequentially, because, you know, if sometimes you'll play a game and you're like, ooh, I got to play it again to see what I missed. There's nothing to miss in this game. But there's enough in this game to be interesting to make it make it a good thing to revisit from time to time. And I can't believe that I spent most of my rant defending it. I'm just going to go back and say
I was really excited to hear about how much you hated the mechanics.
I thought that this was a clever setup by Chandler going, I have a rant, I'm going to get you the rant, and I'm sitting here like, okay, I'm prepared for all of his criticisms, and then he ended up defending it, and I'm like, wait, what?
Well, okay.
Plot twist.
So, you know that I am more than willing to get on my high horse and then shoot myself in the foot.
Oh, yeah.
Like both feet at the same time. I'm going to do it. This game is far too polished for me to get on that high horse. Like, I'm sorry, this game is very well produced. And listening to the problems that you guys had made me realize this game isn't bad. Well, the story's bad, but
Yes,
the game itself is not. And
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
a bad
Yeah, I'll
game
agree
at
with
all.
that.
yeah, like that's what made me realize that this game is probably better than I was giving it credit for in my mind, because I felt the need to defend the pieces that I thought were good.
I know how to summarize it. This is a bad game. A very, very bad game with bad mechanics that is so beautiful you don't
Yeah.
notice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we've had a long enough rant about this. Where can people find you guys on the internet? Let's start with Devin.
Well, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and twitch.tv at Lady Merowith.
And you also do a fair number of Twitch playthroughs. They are
I do.
fucking awesome. I'm
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, currently I am playing Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which is a game.
maybe we'll talk about it.
Speaking of games that are mechanically what?
Yeah.
But no, it's good. Yes, so if you like watching people be mildly bad at games, but totally like trying to analyze how it was built and also story stuff, come watch me. I would love to have you in my chat.
Well, awesome. And where can
Yeah.
they find you, Tom?
I am on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram as Tomakaze. That's Tomakze. And mostly all of the stuff I post has nothing to do with this. I'm a hardcore car guy. I am going to start making some videos about a fairly interesting project that I'm building at the moment. So YouTube videos are on the way, and I have pretty regular Instagram posts. But they have nothing to do with video games, because I'm a multi-diverse nerd.
Fair enough.
So
Fair enough. People can find me on Twitter as JC Siron, Sirron. I mostly rant about video games and sci-fi, so if you want to laugh or rant with me, join me there. That's it for this episode. I hope we have you in next time.
Bye.
yes.